Welcome to Behind the Radio, Season 3.
Good evening, curious minds out there across the world. As always, I'm your host, DJ Joswa, and this is the BTR for Season 3, Episode 11, Black-Eyed Kids, The Final Knock. This episode was the conclusion of our spooky season series, whatever you want to call it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this kind of little change of pace that we did this year. I just thought it would be a good way to kind of keep some sort of content coming out, I guess, during this time when I'm usually a little too busy to really be putting any of the full-length episodes out. Also, I thought it might bring a little bit of fun into what has otherwise, admittedly, been a pretty heavy and dense season so far. I knew going into it, just because of the episodes that I'd planned out for this season, that it would likely be that way. So I've kind of tried to balance out the more heavy and complex stories with a few that I guess would be a little more fun, like Project Stargate and the Montauk Project episodes. But the assassination and the Franklin episodes, especially that Franklin three-parter, definitely ended up being more complex and even heavier than I had originally planned. I knew that Franklin would be tough, which is why I waited so long, I guess, to get into it. It's just a very dark and complex topic by its nature. It requires extensive and detailed research for me to be able to cover it correctly, so it definitely took a lot longer than I was anticipating, and and I even left out a ton of stuff just because I felt like it would probably get either censored or some sort of strike against us. I definitely knew that platforms like YouTube and some of the other places that the podcast is uploaded to, like on our RSS feed, I knew that a lot of those wouldn't even play it if I went any further with it. So hopefully they're still up. I don't even know. I haven't checked that. But hopefully they remained up the way that we did it. I'm sure that you noticed by this point, I'm going to do my best to filter it out, but there's kind of a loud fan noise that you're most likely hearing to some degree at this point. I can't do anything about that. I do apologize. I don't want to get into it. It is what it is. Try to put that out of your mind as best you can, I guess. Hopefully by the end of this season, it'll kind of be a little more well-rounded. There's still some more very information-dense, quasi-heavy episodes to come. One that I know of for sure that'll be coming up soon. But I've also got some kind of lighter, not quite so heavy, but very intriguing stuff that I want to get into before the end of the year. So hopefully by the end of it, it'll be a worthwhile journey. And I really hope that you guys have enjoyed it. I also hope that you all had a very good Halloween weekend. And it was at least a safe one for you. It's been so weird lately, where I'm living currently. I don't really feel, it's not really the best place to do a bunch of outside decorating. And it isn't as big as a lot of the places that I've lived, so hosting larger parties, the parking situation's kind of difficult to navigate with a lot of people. So I think a lot of that plays into the last few years not really even feeling that much like Halloween to me. I also sort of have that like nostalgic impression of what Halloween is supposed to be and what it's supposed to feel like, and I don't know, last few years it just kind of seems like it's fallen well short of that. I don't know if that's just me, situational kind of thing, but I hope you guys were able to at least enjoy your time if you celebrate Halloween. I know that not all of you do. I don't really plan on this being a super long BTR, so I'm going to stop all my rambling now. Just a couple of quick points that I wanted to make in this one. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Our last episode turned up the creep factor, and we dove into one of my favorite ghost/demon/cryptid, whatever the hell they are, stories the BEK phenomenon. Those two stories at the beginning were allegedly real, at least as far as they were originally presented. Bethel and Northwoods, well, told through Bethel, at least say that they were true, and we'll get into that a little bit more here in just a minute. But these were the first two accounts of the BEKs that I was able to find verified on record. Prior to Bethel dropping this one in his email list, as far as I could find within the research that I did anyway, it hadn't appeared in any widely available way, for sure. The stories from Cannock Chase existed, at least the Ghost Child part, but their parallels with the BEKs seem to be, for the most part at least, more of a retrofitted detail to capitalize on the craze and I guess to kind of up the spooky factor of those original stories. Bethel's original account was published in an email list that he had. Some people call it a newsletter, but it was some sort of like an email list that he had among other people that were interested in the paranormal and stuff like that. Which, if I'm not mistaken, the title of it was Ghost-Related Mailing List. Back in 1998. It allegedly documented an event that took place in 96, though. Prior to this, Bethel was a journalist, writing mostly columns for the Abilene Reporter News, which is a daily newspaper based in Abilene, Texas. His focus was on feature stories blending community reporting with reflective, narrative-driven pieces, often on religion, faith, higher education, local arts, culture, and human interest topics like civil leaders or historical events there within West Texas. His style was opinion-infused, but very grounded in real journalism, just not exactly straight investigative or hard news beats all the time. He is actually still a staff writer there today, and he's also the public information coordinator for the city of Abilene. And aside from appearing in several different documentaries and story things that covered the phenomenon, he also even has circled back to it several times. In a 2012 follow-up piece that he did, he defended the story's authenticity. And I actually contacted Mr. Bethel for comment, and he got back to me, and I'll read that email for you here in just a moment. I'm also working to try to get at least a short interview with him done over the phone or through Riverside. And if we're able to get that before Wednesday when I need to put this out, then I will definitely include that in this episode as well. But he's a very sincere guy. He seems to 100% believe what he's saying. And I'm inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt. Honestly, I have no reason to doubt him. And contrary to what most people, I'm sure, believe, I am actually a skeptical minded person. I'm a skeptic at heart. I've just proven the reality of so many things to my skeptic mind at this point that I'm willing to accept things if there is a preponderance of evidence, at least, to back up what it is. I try to remain open-minded, but I always analyze anything to the best of my ability to try to make sure that what I'm telling you is truth if I'm presenting it to you as fact. I tend to trust in what I can see, what I've experienced, and what the evidence shows. And above all, what I can or cannot prove, which I let really shape the narrative of most of the things that I cover on this show. The questions that I sent to Bethel in my email centered around whether or not he really stood by his story still, or if it was just for entertainment, and if he was willing to really put his journalistic integrity on the line for it. Without openly doubting what he was saying, I did at least want to do my journalistic due diligence and ask the question, is this something that you made up? Here, I will actually just read you the original email that I sent to him, and then I'll read his reply, because I think that will kind of summarize all of this up a little bit more succinctly. Okay, for total transparency and a little bit of context, I had initially sent an email to an address that I'd got for him, but I wasn't sure if it was correct, and I did that maybe about a week ago. So I sent a follow-up 2 days ago just to try and give him one more chance before I began writing the BTR. And my letter says, "Dear Mr. Bethel," and then I add, "I had reached out recently, but I wasn't sure if I had the correct email for you, so I thought I would take one last stab at establishing contact with you. Apologies if this is a repeat or if you just aren't interested in responding." And then begins my letter. "I'm Joshua DJ Joswa Hunter, host of Clandestine Radio, Uncovering the Truth, Exploring the Unknown, an independent podcast diving into unexplained phenomena with a focus on evidence and adding context. For our Halloween special, Black-Eyed Kids, The Final Knock, we featured your seminal 1998 account as the original story alongside that of John from his Portland experience. I'm currently working on the bi-weekly follow-up show that I do Behind the Radio, which features a segment exploring corroboration and counterpoints. To ensure balance, I'd greatly appreciate your brief thoughts on a few points. Do you still stand fully behind the details of your reporting/experience? Was the piece primarily intended to build a newsletter interest, or does it reflect a genuine unexplained event? Have there been any new developments or reflections on the encounter in the years since? Regarding the mention of John Northwoods from Portland, Oregon that was tied to spirit or the paranormal theme, I've had trouble verifying his existence. Any insight on that connection or why records might be sparse? I've also tried spelling variations since I'm interpreting his name mostly based on the original IRC chat transcript and what you had provided in your coverage. Having worked in journalism prior to this podcast, I wanted to also offer that all of this can be on or off record, and I assure you that any information provided will be handled accordingly. Your perspective would just add invaluable depth. Happy to share the episode draft or hop on a quick call. Response by November 11th would be ideal, but no pressure. Thank you for your time. Your work has inspired many, including this episode. And then I put my contact info. And now I'm going to read you his response to that. I think I may have pissed Brian off just a touch by asking the hard, real questions to him. I would think that he would probably understand. And I'm not saying necessarily that it's just how the beginning of it kind of comes off. But the first part was just regarding his personal email, which I'm not going to share. And then he said, as a quick rundown, yes, I do. This is in response to if he stood behind it. Yes, I do, and I have for all the time since. I've been on more than one podcast, a national television program, and written about this for my former publication and my current job as a public information coordinator for the city of Abilene. I also did a recent YouTube podcast with my colleague, Blaine Byer, about it for the city. So in short, yes, it happened. It happened that way. No, I'm not going to reveal some secret, aw shucks, I'm just funnin' moment, because I'm not. Then he goes on to correct me, saying that it wasn't a newsletter, like I had previously stated, but that he wrote it on a private email list originally, and then eventually posted it to alt.folklore.ghost-stories on Usenet at the request of several people after it had already been shared widely. I shared it because writing for me is a cathartic exercise, and I wanted to process what happened with people who were open to such things. As a reporter who relies on credibility, just making up some creepypasta or something and presenting it as true would hurt my journalistic integrity, which I've spent almost 3 decades building. Along with a few other anomalous events, this happened. Do I know why it happened? No. Do I know exactly what they are? No. As far as developments, I have been contacted by people all over the world and various paranormal researchers, including writers Jason Offutt and David Weatherly, who have compiled further evidence that I am not alone in my encounter. I have collected sightings from as far away as Europe and as close as a little town next to me. Various changes of email addresses mean that I didn't always archive them as well as I should have. But I've been gratified to have a small community of people not just echoing my original writing, but providing enough background and unique experiences to satisfy me that I'm not alone and that I'm not the origin point. Anyone who writes on a blog or post that Brian Bethal made up the BEKs earns my immediate and I believe deserved ire. The last contact I had with John was on LinkedIn. We've kind of lost touch with each other. I can see if I can find his LinkedIn profile. At the time I shared his account, he was working with Intel. I think he's still in the tech industry. I'll see what I can dig up for you. And that was pretty much the end of that email. So going into this story, I was very, very curious because it's always been something that's interested me. I think that they stand out among all of the more modern folklore as being very unique and feeling a lot fresher and more original than most of the kind of hackneyed, regurgitated ones that you hear about. But I was also very skeptical, just simply due to the fact that there's not a lot of verifiable evidence to support these stories. Pretty much every time it's just a person's account of it. And memory can be very faulty. It's kind of a funny thing. We lose all kinds of details in the first 48 hours of something happening. So recounting something later, your brain tends to kind of fill in some things or exaggerate things. So it's not so much that I believe that these people were maybe lying or just totally making it up. It was just, it's one of those situations where you have to kind of go, okay, well, maybe it didn't happen just like that. But I believe that they believe what happened, and I definitely believe that Brian believes that that happened. And I don't want to throw any kind of doubt on him because he seems extremely sincere, in my opinion. He was very forthcoming about everything. And in my original email, I had extended a hand to jump on a phone call maybe and just kind of discuss things if he would be open to that. And in his response, he said that he would. I don't know if that was going to be on or off record, but then in my response to that email, I extended the hand of maybe you would want to come on and have like a 30-minute recorded conversation on record, just to kind of give your story again and, speak to my audience about what happened to you. Or if you'd want to get on Riverside even, and we could do just kind of a very short, abbreviated podcast episode about it. And I haven't heard anything back. It took a little while to get that reply, though. So he does a lot of things there in Abilene. He's a very busy guy, I'm sure. So I don't really expect to hear from him before I'm able to get this out. If that changes, again, I'll be sure to include it in this episode if I've got time. And if not, then I'll do a short follow-up about it. But to me, I feel that Brian is being sincere. If he could give me some evidence about John Northwoods, that would go a long way towards kind of shoring up any doubts that I have regarding that part of the story, at least. Because just to me, I feel like the John Northwood story is the more difficult of the two to really wrap my head around and easily believe. I would need a little bit more. I think the burden of proof is a little bit higher with the Northwood story than it is with what happened to Brian Bethal. That's a very believable story. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it was anything supernatural. But a lot of things happen in this world that we just can't explain. So I'm willing to be open to it. I believe what he's saying, and I'll let you guys make up your own mind about that. But I did dig pretty deeply into John, and I wasn't able to find any matches in Portland or even the greater Multnomah, I think is how you say that, county area. Not on the voter rolls, not in any property deeds or obituaries, white pages, nothing. And neither did any of the people finder sites that I have access to, which is very rare. I mean, there are a lot of services that will try and scrub all that off for you at this point, but it's odd to not find any traces of somebody whatsoever. No kind of social media, nothing, no LinkedIn, nothing came up for me. I tried a few variations of the spelling too, but who's to say? If Brian gets back to me with something to verify John's account, then I'll be a lot more willing to believe that. And I also looked online, which is kind of limited a lot in situations like this. I may have been able to find something had I been able to actually travel there and go to the courthouse and pull up these, what records might be available. But I couldn't find any information on a traffic accident or a police report that matched what he talked about in that case, in his story rather. But I also didn't have a whole lot of details about the Doug guy. So who knows? But I did try to do just a cursory look just to see if I found anything. I will say that I'm a lot more inclined to believe Bethal's account than a lot of the ones that I came across online. It kind of seems like he shared his story and perhaps that of John Northwoods, and then it got out into the world, and the internet did what it does best. I mean, it took the story and it built onto it, replicated it in various voices, and I guess much like Slender Man or countless other kind of creepypasta things, it just kind of turned it into a real-world monster, which encouraged other people to jump on the bandwagon because it was getting popular, gaining steam, whatever. And so other people wanted to use it for clicks as well. As far as Cannock Chase is concerned, like I mentioned a moment ago, yes, there are accounts and rumors of these entities haunting those woods. And yes, there have been stories of ghost children, like I said, since the early 80s. But it wasn't until, as far as I know, it wasn't until after Bethal's account had really gone mainstream that we started seeing those traits of the BEKs being applied to the entities in those woods. The Chase seems to kind of be a catch-all for creepy entities around there. It's got a dark history, it's dense, it's creepy looking, it's expansive, and I think it kind of gives rise for imagination to take over. I mean, we as humans, we love to be scared. We act like we don't, but there's a reason that horror remains the top genre of film, and why every year people will throw out billions just to walk through various haunted houses and corn mazes and trails, all of that around Halloween. When we lived off the land, our ancestors got their adrenaline kick from having to hunt and evade predators. And it was useful as a survival tool. So, I mean, the neurons that fire together wire together. So we're kind of genetically hardwired for those instincts. And my theory on us needing to be scared is the less and less that those instincts were really required for our survival, the more we started seeing ghosts and telling ghost stories and legends of dark creatures, and you start seeing that emerge in cultures. I mean, our lizard brain, it needs that adrenaline spike to truly feel alive. I have a note here, just for reference. In 2024, people spent $11.5 billion on Halloween. 70% of that went towards scares like haunted attractions. And that's according to the most recent National Retail Federation stats. Horror films account for 20 to 30% of box office earnings year after year, out-earning romance tales 3-1. Dr. Glenn Sparks from Purdue University sums it up best by saying, quote, "Controlled fear equals dopamine plus endorphins. Same circuits as sex or winning at something," end quote. So being afraid went from a primal survival instinct to entertainment, and I guess a cheap dopamine hit for us. So we crave that excitement, the sense of proximity to danger without actually having to put ourselves in any real danger. Then we have the true adrenaline junkies who need that sense of real danger to even truly feel alive. And whether that's rock and mountain climbing or skydiving or bungee jumping or whatever extreme sports you kids are doing these days, some of us need that rush. They need it on tap more than others do, I guess is what I'm trying to say. For many, it's not even about being afraid. It's the satisfaction of being able to overcome that fear that I think most people really derive the most joy from. Whatever the reason or the source, it's just an innately human trait, at least it would seem. It's always been with us in one form or another. And this is just strictly my opinion, but I feel that that's probably why we hold bravery in such high regard in our culture. Because, I mean, bravery isn't a lack of fear, but it's the ability to feel that fear while still being able to manage our reaction to it and eventually overcome it. So those people were genetically very useful to us back in the hunter-gatherer days. They were the ones that were going to be the first to try to, stab the predator or to defend the rest of the people. The one to lead off the hunting charge. Those people were extremely valued, if you will, in the older society. So I think that's why we still kind of have such a affinity for the trait of bravery. So I guess my honest thoughts regarding most of the episode is that it's really just kind of too hard to pin down. The lack of real evidence out there, the abundance of the fake evidence that's out there, and I guess the frequently unreliable nature of witness accounts, it's kind of all done a lot to really muddy the waters surrounding the topic. And since I've never actually seen one myself, and I don't know anyone directly, aside from Quasi-Brian now, I guess at this point, who has, it kind of makes it difficult for me to say with any kind of certainty that they are or aren't real. I mean, I would love it if they were, just because I love scary stories and anything that I guess exists beyond our concept of normal reality, outside of the normal and the paranormal. I mean, I'm here for it. Books, movies, games, horror has always been like a strange comfort food to me in a way. It's exciting, but in a controlled and typically safe kind of way. Like I said, I think we're all just hardwired for it. I really do. And I feel that it's good for us in a lot of ways. It pushes us beyond our comfort zone. It interrupts our complacency, and it gives us a momentary distraction from all of the very real and very dangerous true horrors that we have in this world. And it's important to remember to not become too comfortable or too sure about our safety. So I think it triggers and it kind of reawakens those ancestral instincts, which we all could need at any point, to be honest. So I can't say whether or not BEKs are real or if they're fake, at least not for certain, but I can say that it doesn't hurt to think that they could be. It never hurts to second guess the stranger at the gate, to be wary, to be apprehensive, and to carefully kind of consider who or what we do allow to cross our thresholds. Because whether or not these entities exist, there are plenty that certainly do, human and otherwise, that truly warrant having some degree of caution when dealing with them. So anything that hones those instincts even a little bit only makes us better in the long run and safer than we were before. And that, my friends, is why we are hardwired with that desire for fear, and why the BEKs, real or not, are the perfect legend for our times. And I guess that's really all I have for this BTR, at least regarding the last episode. And if I do, like I said, if I do end up getting back in touch with Bethel, then we'll definitely revisit this in a future BTR. If there's nothing at the end of this one between he and I, then you'll know that I didn't hear back in time. But for now, I'm hard at work on our next episode, and I think that it will be something that a lot of you are really going to enjoy. It exposes a lot of corruption and dark dealings within certain government agencies, and it dovetails in with a popular episode from Season 1, where I kind of mentioned a few details about the case. But that's all the hints you're going to get. I don't want to ruin the surprise, so I don't want to give any more away at this point, but I'm shooting to have it completed in 2 weeks or so. We will be dropping back to a slightly slower release schedule from the rest of the season, but they should be longer and more in-depth episodes without going overboard, hopefully. I'm trying to really rein that in, I swear. So hopefully you guys will feel like it's worth it by the end of it. I also have 2 guests that I'm working very hard on bringing on. I'm not sure if they will be available in time to make it for this season or not, but if not, hopefully I can get something together for them to either join us maybe on the New Year's Eve special or early next season, I guess at the latest. There's a lot going on behind the scenes right now, but I'll do my best to keep everyone posted as soon as I know more and can really talk about it. I've got some exciting surprises in store, so stick around. There's going to be a poll over on the Spotify page. It would mean so much if you could take just a second and answer it for me. Leave a comment letting me know what you thought about the October episodes, if you like these narrative style kind of stories or not. I'd love to hear from you. Plus, interaction lets me know more than anything else, more than play counts, that you guys are actually listening out there and that I should keep doing the show. And full transparency here, I still kind of feel on the fence at this point whether or not it's worth the time and effort to keep doing this for very much longer. I hate to say that, but I mean, I never did this to try to get rich off of it or have a big show. It was really just to kind of showcase some of the research I've done over the years and my ability to communicate that with you all and kind of leave, I guess, for posterity, we'll say. I was going to leave this series for posterity. But I really enjoyed doing it and got a lot of good reaction and feedback initially, and we definitely reached further and more people than I ever imagined that it would. And that truly means the world. But to keep doing it for the amount of time that it takes, I mean, it's really, I can't express enough. I really can't convey to you guys how much really goes into these episodes. So as much as I enjoy it and as much as I would love to keep doing these, it's, if we keep going or not, really is kind of up to you guys. So I'm leaving that one in your hands. You let me know what you think. Interaction really goes a long way for me to be able to judge that. And I'm not just begging for interaction for any kind of personal reasons, any kind of needs, and it's definitely not making me anything for you to do it. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed our little spooky season series. If we do keep going and there's enough support for it, then we may do that again next year if that's something that you guys would support and be interested in. I'll have episode 12 out as soon as humanly possible. Of course, check the Discord or Facebook for current release information. I'm working on merging those two more very soon and kind of leaving the Discord for more like exclusives and research files. I guess I'll give you more details on all that soon. We're kind of going to shuffle some things around and I think in the long run improve the way that we communicate. But for now, take care of yourselves out there and take care of one another when you can. And I'll talk to you all again real soon on the next Clandestine Radio.